Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Worlds and Crafts, a stream devoted to opening the curtain of creation. Wow, on setting building, where we talk about metaplots, minutiae, mechanics, and today specifically maps. So some of you may be noticing right out the door that something looks a little different. That was because I realized that my mountains were still too large. So last night I started futzing around with scale. So today we're gonna be doing some organizing with that. Gonna be messing with that thing there, and probably filling out maybe adding some, making sure that our city up in the north is the right place. So there's that. Okay. So to begin, what I did is I took the little scale that we had used here, this 35 kilometers, which is roughly about a day's walking distance. And I went and I looked up like the size of different individual mountains. Okay, what's the size of like Mount Rainier and things like that? And realistically, Rainier is very large. So I kind of used this for scale. Um, what about and said, all right, some of these mountains from base end to base end are about 35 kilometers across. That sounds fine, because that means if you're scaling over the mountain, you're talking about multiple days of work because you have to go up. So for that, then our mountains range between like size yeah, these between size 40% and like and down to like 30. So we're working at kind of making that make sense today. A lot of mountains tend to run in patterns because, well, mountains represent the where continents collide, right? Or plates collide. So as you can see, I kind of did a little swooshing motion here for that, and I think that actually looks really nice. I think it looks nicer than it did before, um, if a little confusing to look at. So for the moment, I'm gonna just jump our little Wellspring Peaks text out of the way. Wow, okay. Not able to be in front of everything, so we'll just move that down there for the moment. That way we can work uninhibited. So let's begin by continuing our reshaping efforts. As you can see, I kind of did a couple things in here already. I made it so that the mountains came to like a terminus right here, kind of in a little V shape, which isn't unheard of. Sometimes when the when plates collide and there's like an outcropping, it creates situations like that. Um, but I still haven't fixed the mountains over here, so I think we're gonna start by working on that. So I'd initially started by selecting all mountains, um, using our objects panel over here. Selected. I just looked for mountains, and I resized them until I thought it was appropriate. Um, so we're gonna kind of continue onward that notion. Still a mountain pass or like a valley, so I'm gonna try and make it pretty relatively narrow. Oh, hey, a hiding mountain. Cool. Borrow you. There's a lot of changing layers that ends up happening uh anytime you're working on mountains, because you have to shift the way the layers behave all the time. So let's get this one back. I'm gonna try and focus on having foothills over here. So smaller mountains like these ones. Grab small mountain stamp. Kind of just make sure I'm not putting the same type of mountain directly up against each other. But I'm also trying to make this a contiguous like peak. So they should all line up in such a manner that they either make a continuous line, or yeah, they make a continuous line, like it could be a divergence of multiple fractions colliding with each other and smashing up. We're gonna start by making a single line along the shape of this valley. Let's curve this down. Make this one larger. Something you can do to expand a mountain, like lengthwise, is you can put the mountain behind it, the one on top of it, like that. And you can see when you move it around, it looks wrong. But once you place it, it looks okay. It looks like you just kind of expanded it out. You just made it a little longer. So you can use that as a trick for making it so you have a longer ridge line. Ideally, not with the exact same type of mountain like that. So, grab one of these slightly different. Yeah, that'll. Then we'll bring this one back up to layer 1 so that it's front. And then it just looks like there's just a dip there. Go back to our regular state. Of sized. Silly me. Okay. Mountains do tend to zigzag, so as you can see here, by putting this one behind this one, we ended up creating this illusion that it kind of curved off like a little snake. And mountains snake quite often. Pretty useful. We don't want to make it too narrow because we have narrow passages between the mountains already. Changing the size of small mountains helps quite a lot. Sometimes they are frankly too small. Alright, I think it's time we started grabbing some larger mountains, maybe on the small side of the larger mountains. Grab this bad boy. Yeah. We'll grab this one next. Hunt that right over there. I don't really like this combination of move some of these out of the way. Larger mountain. Whoopsie. Bring that one to the front. Up layer. Bring that one back a layer. 2. There. Sometimes layers can be difficult. I try not to go terribly far beyond layer 0, 1, and -1, because otherwise now we can move this big boy up over here. Alright, I'm actually liking the way this is looking so far. Let's drag this one down here. Sometimes you want to really cram the mountains right up on each other because there's, multiple peaks in a mountain. Or not multiple. Go back to our large mountain. No, I wanted large mountain. Large lads. Go. Ah, that's a good one. Perfect one for this. Kind of on the lengthier side. A little wide, but I think we can do that right here. Yeah. There's one right behind it, so I'm going to drag that out on layer 0, so I'm going to make it up to layer 1. And I'm going to kind of bring it over here, shrink it down a little bit. Make it so so the appearance of our mountain range makes quite. And then coming out from our big mountain there, I don't want it to just terminate because it's not a volcano. I want it to slowly fade. like so. Groovy. All right. Now we're just gonna have to repeat this process. At the moment, I'm not hyper fond of the way this looks. I think what I'll do is I'm just gonna move these around a little bit. Same sense wise. Sometimes when you're placing these mountains, they look wrong. Kind of got to fiddle around with them until they look right. Until they look like their ridges connect. And we've got our huge chunk master over here. Chunk Master 5000. Alright, I think that one can live there. Thankfully, because these mountains are for the most part off of our one bordering the valley, you kind of want to create a little bit of distance. Not a huge amount, but enough that there's the appearance that they're in lines, because mountains formed by continental collisions form that way, form in lines. Never nice, neat, and straight ones either. They're always crooked. Crooked as fuck. I'm gonna shrink this large mountain down. I'm actually gonna bring that to the front. I think that's very nice. Fun little curvature to our thing here, implying that there's a valley right there. But as a result of that, I now need to make me upset. Bring that back. That back. That's better. That's excellent. And we'll bring that down one more layer. That one's -1 because it lives in the background. We'll move 0. Then we can that same thing. Gonna remove that grass back there. Probably even hills. Because we can always re-add them later. Okay, let's go back to small mountain. Bring it back up to size 40-ish. One back down. Move that grass. Oh. A lot of grass. There's no way I'm going to be able to grab all that, so I'm just going to move mountains out of the way. Little tiny selector. We'll re-add that grass later. Okie dokie. The idea I was kind of running for, that was that out of this range here, they tend to make their way toward that's not, they tend to make their way along in a southeast way, and this and sometimes they branch off. Like right over here, you've got a branch. Branches do happen sometimes in mountain ranges like this. Um, and sometimes it's just messy. Like this here, volcano. Definitely a volcano. Too big to not be a volcano. Too out of its way to not be a volcano. At least it once was. But the implication then is that, the mountains, while they do this, they also continue along down into our black unseen zone. Okay. I think I like that. Pretty good. A little jarring visually for me, so I might say that we do we select our just our mountains, which it should only select the brown mountains because we put it in quotes. So select all 123 matching. And I think we should change our blend mode to change how the mountains behave. Let's see if there's a particular method that looks better for us. Well, that's interesting. So the luminosity changes it based on what's underneath it. All right. Looks like there's nothing particularly useful to us at the moment then. Though I think the luminosity may end up doing well for us. Whoopsie daisy. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Back. Let's try the luminosity for now. Interesting. I don't like how it's all over the place. That must be luminosity is. But let's just go back to normal. And let's do a shadow. The layer shadow. Okay, layer shadow looks good. Layer shadow has created us quite a bit of delightfulness, and we may end up changing that later. The object shadow means that it has a shadow on the objects behind it, which also looks pretty good. But then we get to change what that looks like. So we could do that to increase our sense of depth. But at the moment, I think that it just makes it look jarring. So maybe they'll leave something later. And then we'll leave it at none. I just wanted to see what kind of options we had available. All right. Zoom back in. Mountains over here are just quite a lot of these are. Okay, so unfortunately, having rearranged our mountains, that we have completely messed up our shading. We're gonna have to go back in and do more shading. Fix that little river that was there. More. Before we do that, though, let's fix the Goatscythe Mountains because they got completely fubbed. Biggity food. Flabbergasted. I see Vancouver by Night in there looking. I'll move mountains. Ah, 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 ah. Alright, so now this mountain range was not exactly caused by um not exactly caused by a continental collision. Mountain ranges of this variety tend to be caused by craters. This one would have been a particularly old crater, so these mountains are much smaller now than they originally started. The erosion creating land in the middle, instead of it just being a part of the ocean. Um, let's grab our green mountains, select all, and I'm just gonna change these all to layer 0 for the moment. And we'll adjust them as needed. Might need to. Make sure our mountains actually look good though. Let's start arranging. So the mountains here in the foreground, probably gonna need to make layer 1. Probably up to here. So we'll make those all layer 1. For some reason that's layer 2. I don't know why, but we'll figure that out later. Goodness, I love that you can reset like layered mass or change the layers and mass. Like really useful feature of this program. Wondrous. We got a little tiny curvature in our mountain here. A curvy thingy. That. Oh, hello there, child. We'll use you. Nectar. Now you shall serve the greater. I'm just making these mountains a little larger. Look better. There we go. Sometimes when I select mountains, they don't want to. Sorry, sometimes when I try to select mountains, they don't want to be selected. By golly, it's frustrating. Grab some more small greenies. Because we've got some gaps in our mountains that I need to fill in right here. Can't see anything outside of this, so I'm going to move the text out of the way. Better. Well. I want these bad boys to. These bad children to seem not impassable completely, but a barrier. Significant barrier that makes passage more than a task. Hazardous. Incredibly hazardous. Also don't like the mountains of the same type being up against one another typically. Unless it's like a feature. Annoying. shape of that small mountain does not bring me joy. That's okay, your big dad. I know Wes is currently doing a charity stream, I think, right? I know he's doing a 12-hour stream. And I will never be upset if people are watching that. I mean, Wes is a delight to watch. I only wish he could be here right now, but that's okay. He's a beautiful, beautiful soul. Lovely person. We adore Wes. But welcome, your big dad. Sorry if I didn't see you soon enough. Feeling a little out of it. Danny and I were watching some Bob Ross last night before bed, and it's kind of coincidental, amusing, ironic, that we were, because I made some big changes to the map, shrunk all the mountains, and we've just been reorganizing them because I shrunk them again. Mostly because I realized that the scale of the mountains was making the rest of the land look kind of small. That's good. And how are you doing today, Ben? I just looked into to our users real quick just to see who else is in here, and I'm the Mermaid Queen is definitely for today my favorite Twitch username. Specifically, just the duh. I'm the Mermaid Queen. Perfect, wonderful. Rolls off the tongue. All right. So unfortunately, as a direct result of futzing around here, have ruined my blending. So now, we have to add some foothills. So we're probably gonna go ahead and grab some green hills. Actually, no, not green hills. For the outside, we're gonna do some brown hills. For the inside, I don't want any hills. I want it to just be like stark. Brown hill. Pop some hills along in here. Oh, actually, I don't like that either. Not a fan. Yeah, we'll do green hills. The brown hills look horrifying. So I'm just gonna keep hitting undo until I confuse incarnate. Greeny boys. Not some hedges. Not involved. Hedge yet. Yeah. Yeah, some green hills. There we go. I just felt like this needed something along the outside to, like, I don't know, ease it down, dare I say, into the landscape. And right now these are kind of disappearing under there, but I think it does kind of add some interesting texture. That is, oh, that's very large. That's too large. Let's shrink that down. There we go. Yeah, when we were watching Bob Ross last night, I love Bob Ross. Bob Ross is the best thing. Gift, a blessing on all. Because, you know, what we can see is important. I'm trying to just like angle these hills so that they're always a little bit visible. I want them to just kind of like be on the outside there. Looks good to me. Because now I can, imply that runoff from these mountains does fuel this area. Hello there, Lycan Dragon. How are you doing today? So, for those just joining us, let's do a brief reintroduction. This is Worlds and Crafts, a stream where we build a setting together, and we'll also make a map about the setting. Program that we're using for this is Inkarnate. It's a delightful program that you can get for free online. It is purely cloud-based, but you can also pay $25 a year for a free version. This map is representative of about 40 hours of work to date. Um, you know, changes to the map along the way, notwithstanding. And Lycan Dragon, drinking some white and vanilla hot chocolate. That sounds delicious. I currently am drinking Earl Grey with a splash of honey and a splash of oat milk. Splash of honey, a little drop of honey. A splash of honey. If honey is splashing, you're using too much honey. We recently kind of fucked up our mountains because we shrunk them. We have these big gaps in between things that we're gonna have to fix. But I'm feeling pretty satisfied with the way these foothills and such are coming out. So, thinking it's about time to do our blending. Always do the blending. All right. And best thing though is chili hot chocolate. I gotta say, I can sometimes agree. I like to make homemade hot chocolate. Sometimes I'll make I'll start the process of making caramel, butter and sugar, and then about halfway through it, switch and make hot chocolate out of that using cocoa, and it's friggin' amazing, bud. Super good. So again, for those just joining us, anytime you place stamps in Inkarnate, anytime you're placing any kind of object on a graphic map like this, hello there, what are you doing? Better. You always want to use a darker color than the rest of your environment, the rest of your landscape, to put underneath your stamps, because it helps to blend it into the background. It helps to blend it in, make it look less like it's floating. And as back to hot chocolate though, Lycan Dragon, where do you buy your hot? And if it looks like I'm just smudging the entire world in dark brown, don't worry about that. We'll be fixing that. At the moment, we're just making sure our mountains have the correct amount of or have some blending going on. I think I'm gonna lower down my my opacity over here, just so that I'm not making it as dark as possible, but still making it. I'll have to go multiple strokes over it if I want to make it as dark as humanly possible. Already looking a lot better. Now let's give the same treatment to our mountains down. Shrink this down along the edge. Make this a little. There we go. I don't want to accidentally ruin all the other work I've done. I mean, we can always go back in and tweak it, and we're gonna have to. Still, the less work I have to redo, the better. Got it for about £9, $11. A fair amount of it. Oh, nice. Sounds delightful. Gotta say, on the whole, you can get better coffee in the UK than you can in most of the US. And chocolate for that matter. That also said, we do have some very fine shops over here. It just depends on where you are. We have a chocolatier, who is in Manchester, New Hampshire. So that's in New England. That's in the Northeast, and and like all things in the Northeast, named after England. Um, and there's a chocolatier there who makes some really, really, really good chocolate. That sounds delightful. Like, not to talk about intensely dark things, but are you guys experiencing any haze over there from the California wildfires? I know it's hitting some parts of Europe. Okay. So now that we've made our map sufficiently brown, we're gonna have to go in and fix it. So there's a whole lot of places we're gonna have to go in and tweak. So I guess I'll ask you, our viewers, where you think we should go first. Where do we think we should start? Where do you want to start? I'm gonna move this signage back up where it belongs. Back down where. Oh my goodness. My arms disappeared. Let's see. So we did recently work on the northern plains and the desert, so I suppose we could start up there. Tweak everything, make it look nice, and slowly make our way down. But the earliest place we started was on the forest, so we could go back down there and fix that and make it look nice again. Um, I think I'd like to work on the forest because the forest has needed some love for a while. So let's tweak that. When it's hard, the shop is just these little pastry bars and sort them according to their flavors so they get. Oh, that sounds delightful. Unfortunately, I can't eat much sugar, so depending on how sweet the chocolate is, that is to say, like how much added sugar there is to the chocolate, I might have a problem with it. That's one of the reasons why I became familiar with that chocolatier in Manchester, New Hampshire, because all the chocolate that he makes, they come from cacao farms that he goes and visits, and depending on, I swear, he treats the cocoa beans like how vintners treat grapes. It's really interesting because he'll based on where the cacao is grown and what the particular elements of that year are, he'll discover like a flavor profile in it, and then decide if he's going to do any kind of roasting to it or not. And usually he doesn't. Usually it's unroasted. And by golly, it's amazing because he gets this unroasted cacao when prepared with that master chocolatier touch is tart, which I never expected. It's like sour, but there's almost no added sugar to these as well. It's phenomenal. Very, very, very rarely sometimes he'll choose to do roasting for certain beans or certain bars. But he makes these handmade truffles that are absolutely gorgeous. Some of them ranging all the way up to $60 for a truffle. $120 chocolate bars. And like, I have absolutely no doubt that if you had the expendable income to do that, it would be worth every penny. No doubt in my mind at all. All right, so because we've been futzing around with things, I'm going to go in to our trees, and I'm actually just gonna set them all to layer 0, which is going to hurt some areas of the map and help some areas. So we'll have to go in and futz around more with them. But until we we go and visit those areas, we won't know what needs fixing. I can certainly attempt to Lycan Dragon. Plot is definitely something I'm better at here. I'm not, it's something that I'm more interested in talking about, especially considering we're just building maps. On Wednesdays it would be a bad time, but today's a good time. Yeah. What is this an in-depth thing, or is it something that could be talked about? We have about an hour left in stream, so if you think we can cover some of it, I'll certainly just talk it out with you. Especially considering there's practically no one else here. It'd be an interesting to talk about. Brilliant. Well, why don't you tell me what's going on? And talk about what's going on there. Give you whatever small advice I can come up with. While you're typing that out, just for anyone else watching, currently just moving trees around because trees should be clustered, little groups. Imply a dense forest, but they should still have gaps between what I'm working at. I was actually thinking of maybe shrinking the size of the trees as well across the whole land because we already shrunk the mountains. Let's do an experiment. Shrink all the trees and see what happens. See if it looks good or it looks bad. 3,843 matching trees. Looks like some of them are smaller than others, but let's just bring them all down to their smallest size you can. 10. Yeah, that was rude. Oh, that actually doesn't look bad at all. I might keep that. Yeah, I think I will. So, Lycan Dragon says, the country has this giant tree. It's revered as sacred by their largest source of authority. The capital is right next to the tree. There are a few other settlements around the country that have their own mini headquarters. They all form a council. Dog just whimper, I don't know why. Maybe it's just tired. Sleepy boy. I think now I've placed all the mountains. like I'm going to have to lock each one. Here we go. I just don't want to accidentally select and move them. Apparently you can't mass lock and unlock objects, which is a feature I'd like them to have. C'est la vie. The Priory has a network of adventurers called the Prior Knights. Prior Knights of the Order, which act as peacekeepers solving countries' problems. Every year, there's a large festival that takes place where adventurers come to be tested and register with the Cool. I really like that you've provided a ultimately what amounts to a fast track. Um, is makes it more interesting story wise for players to get involved with the knights or excuse me the prior knights of the order. Bear in mind that all of this is on video on demand, so if any of your players come here and listen, they'll be able to hear everything I say. You're looking to hide it from them. The Priory uses the forest ruins that surround the Great Tree as an entrance exam. Sort of go in there, get this thing, and show it to us, and you'll be official adventurers. Hooray! So now that I've locked all of our mountains, can't move them. Back to trees. Not sure why, but I always feel like groups of 3 are just nice. Probably some base human trait or something. Triangles are good. Triangles make my brain happy. I'm planning having the party go into this forest to take this exam and be led astray and find a relic of a bygone era. And that would kick off this whole chain of events where the Priory then switches focus to, hey, what if we get all these relics and go inside the tree? So what's the goal of I'm assuming there's something that is beneficial to, or some people believe rather that there's something powerful about the tree that can be taken. Trying to find a way to make the adventure go different from go to city, explore dungeon, get relic, go to the next city. Well, I mean, it's a collect the relics type thing, yeah. Like that's your they have to grab all the keys to do the thing. All right. Have you asked yourself the question yet? What the tree is, why the tree is there? Great tree, sure, but have you answered that question? Okay. So ultimately, the problem that you're having right now is that you don't want them to just end up having to go on fetch quests, right? Like all the time. Just make it so that they're not 100% of the time doing the whole fetch quest thing, but that sometimes they do. Because if that's the case, ultimately what I'm thinking is the whole goal of a story, right? And that's fair. The whole goal of a story is to get the whole a campaign to make the player to give the player something fun to do. Um, and also for me, one of my primary things I like to do for players is I like to root for them as the game master. I like to basically make it so that I'm on their side. Granted, that doesn't mean their characters might feel that way, but I want them to be having fun. Their definition of having fun is always succeeding. Well, that's not really going to work out for anyone, but I do want them to feel canny and powerful and capable. So maybe instead of it being go to this city, do this thing, maybe the players, instead of finding a relic of a bygone era, maybe they find the locations of these relics. And as a result, the players have a lot of power and control. And they then have the option of pursuing these relics on foot if they want, on their own, or they can requisition other people to do it. And if they want to play a more political game, they can. Um, maybe there are people who are competing to get these relics before others, because they think that there's something beneficial about this tree. Somebody who wants it before them, blah blah blah. And that's also pretty formulaic, but it's not mindlessly so. I think it adds sufficient drama. Um, but ultimately, I think you should ask your players what they want. I think you should ask your players what they want to see. Be like, hey, in this game, you have the option of it getting more political, more adventuresome, or like more heisty. How would you like this to go? Do you want to control things? Like, what are you interested in seeing? Because ultimately, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if it's super formulaic if the players are having fun. Because you'll have fun if they're having fun. That's ultimately the most important part. Is that that you're all having fun in a consent-driven fashion. If you ask them what they're interested in seeing, I think you'll find that you'll enjoy the formulaic thing, because they're enjoying it. If that's what they want. And if they don't want that, then you guys can figure out something together without revealing too many details. At one point, a friend of mine ran a rotating GM game that was similar to that. So the premise was very kitschy. It was, there's a big army of evil and they're gathering and no one knows why. But like they're gonna destroy us unless we do something. So we gotta do something. And they're too strong, too powerful for us. So we had to go, and so basically the notion was there are 7 relics that the rumor is if they're combined, you can overcome any obstacle. But every player basically every player did did a scenario or a mini campaign about finding the relic wherever it was. That could have entailed having to find information and then go grab it yourself. That could have entailed knowing where it is, but it being difficult to achieve. That could have entailed it falling into your lap, but then you have to contend with, I don't know, maybe the relic was intelligent. It really shook things up in a big way. That each player was a game master at some point and kind of chose the way it worked. So I think there's a lot of ways you can do it. Sorry, you said I've been trying to think of varying the objects a bit. Like perhaps one of the relics is the possession of a powerful family, and you have to find the cure to save the village, and that's a great one. No, that's a really good idea. Another concept that I think is worth having or worth imagining is again that maybe some of these relics aren't exactly things you can carry with you. Maybe they're just force it. Or maybe there's a relic that's inside a person. Maybe it's a part of them. And the players then have the option of trying to kill them and remove it, or just convincing them to join them. You do have a lot of options at your disposal. I think if you ask your players what kind of things they're interested in playing, you'll gain enough insight to really make a fun, and even if it's not the most unique. I don't think unique is what draws everyone. Relatability, drama. Yeah, another one involving a family could be that this old house, this ancient house has been exiled from their home for thousands of years, hundreds of years, maybe not thousands, hundreds of years. And they were in possession of the relic. But the problem is that the relic is in their family vault. And the family vault is a well-guarded secret. So you've got this exiled family that ultimately know where your relic is. But, but they're like, yeah, you can have it, dude, if you can clear our name. And of course, the players might come up with a more clever way around that. Hell, maybe they'll find the vault on their own. But I am not opposed to, as a game master, plot power. Sometimes you just don't have enough information to be able to do that thing, be able to manipulate your way around something. But also, again, depends on what your players want. I like that a lot, Lycan. Yeah, another party gets a hold of the relic, and now you have to figure out a way around that. Be like, I need the relic, and they're like, well, I need the relic. It's like, well, what do you need it for? And then they start fighting, arguing. Well, I need the relic for my holy quest. Well, I need the relic for my holy quest. I feel like you've got a lot of good ideas already. Are you feeling just a little overwhelmed? Now these trees are disappearing behind the mountains, so I have to bring them up a layer. So, do you wanna know how I write campaigns and story arcs for games? Better question. Question first. How often are your game sessions? And before I answer that, yeah, how often are your game sessions? Because I think it's important. It'd be weekly. So I usually end up doing bi-weekly, personally, because bi-weekly gives me the opportunity to not have to prepare everything. It gives me, right away. It gives me 2 weeks to actually prepare content. A lot of the times I don't end up having the opportunity to prepare content until the week of. For example, today I have a game of Traveler, and for that game of Traveler, I have not fully prepared everything I need to. I have ideas, but I haven't written everything down. So the way that I run games is I write out a primary story arc and goal, which you clearly have written out. You've clearly written out, well, here's the base arc. Here's a big end goal, even if it's not the permanent end goal, here's the end goal. And here are their first steps that they would need to take to overcome this. How they want to approach that is up to them. Because players are unpredictable, I genuinely almost never prepare more than 2 sessions worth of content. Ever. I'll have notes about like base ideas I want to do, but I try my best to not prepare too far in advance. Because again, ultimately, players will fuck your shit up. They will ultimately do something you didn't expect, or do something that would make it so a different story, a different way of writing it would feel more potent. So I think that a lot of the times you're really better off not preparing too much content. So I don't know how often you have the opportunity to write for your game, but try and assess how many hours each week you can spend working on your game, and try and prepare, and on your good weeks, 2 weeks in advance worth of content. That would be my recommendation. So that way you start out with a strong point, you start out with a strong basis, but then you're not wrangling yourself into a corner by over preparing for ultimately what is unpredictable. You've got a lot of really good ideas, like clearly, and I don't think you should be worried at all about if your players are going to like it. I think they're going to love it. And, if they're not having fun, again, talk to them about it. Be like, okay, well, what do you guys want to see more of? And if you haven't prepared an entire, huge story arc, like all in full detail, you won't feel hurt by that. You won't feel rejected because your base ideas can be manipulated and tweaked for something that they're going to enjoy more, and that as a result, you're all going to enjoy. Because it's nothing worse than when your players aren't having fun and you feel defeated because you prepared so much stuff that they just don't care about. I think your loose notes are good, and maybe group them together. Be like, all right, here's one of the events that I think would be fun to do, and you just write some base outline notes for it. Be like, like the one you just suggested. Just write relic retrieval story as your like headline, and then write that this particular family, this particular house has access to and owns this relic. And in order to acquire the relic, the players will need to figure out how to either get them to part with it, steal it, etc. And then, if you have a particular character you have already thought of for that, just write the character's name, a couple attributes about them, and then that's it. Maybe their archetype. Move on. Do outlines. Just do a bunch of outlines. Save yourself work and pain. And I think you're going to find that it's going to be pretty good. It's going to go really well. Because that way you have the opportunity to listen to what your players are saying with their actions, their preferences. You have the opportunity to kind of like serve them and serve you. Does that make sense? Is there any way I can clear it up for you? Any specific questions I can answer? Right on. Well, are you a part of our server, our Discord server? Because if you aren't, I highly recommend joining. We do have a whole bunch of channels just devoted to tabletop things. There are other players there, other game masters, amateurs, professionals, hobbyists of all natures, um, including in a variety of other um, hobbies as well outside of tabletop. Yeah, give it a join. Talk to us there about it if you're interested in it. Have some conversations with people about things, and we do have a very active and supportive mod team. So if you ever have any struggles, you're certainly welcome to tag the mods. I really like where your brain is going though, where you're trying your best to avoid being too kitschy. I think that writers can often be hard on themselves because this is what we do. This is what we study. We have read so many books, we have read so many stories, we have played in so many games. And so now as a result, what we think of as as surprising, as interesting is ultimately blows other players out of the water because they're in this just to play. They're in this just to have fun, you know. Some of them, and and even then, I think if something else to ask yourself, if you're struggling with this is if someone presented you this story and you weren't game mastering it, would you have fun? If your friend was running this story for you. And if the answer is yes, then I think you have already know that you're doing okay already. You're doing well. All right. So it is 1:30. I'm just gonna go ahead and take a quick break here because we're about half an hour past our normal break time, but we'll be closing up shop somewhere around 2. So we'll come back. We'll do some recap on the things we've done, have a little chat, and then we'll probably call it. But before I go, if you don't follow Gehenna Gaming on social media, you should definitely do so on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. We do a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff. Um, Actual plays. We're doing a convention up and coming for it's called SafeCon, SafeCon 2020. Um, and if I have a and we also do actual plays, we do podcasts, we do interviews, we do all kinds of amazing stuff. This is just the thing that I do right now. Um, fun. SafeCon. I'm gonna get thing for this. Where is it? Save against FearCon. I would have prepared for this sooner, but had a busy morning. There we go. Okay. So here's some info for the Save Against Fear convention. Otherwise, beyond that, our friend brother Wes at Carrion Comfort Studios on Twitch is doing a 12-hour stream, just streaming some video games all day. Charity stream, I believe. I don't know what he's currently doing charity wise, but I highly recommend checking it out. He's really entertaining and wonderful. And otherwise, yeah, we're gonna take a quick break. We'll be back shortly, but just before we do, I just want to say one thing I say every single stream. Black Lives Matter. And we are back. Got myself some fresh tea. I see we've got some other people in here. Let's see, First Killer, Commander Root, Lurks, Princess League. Princess League. Kind of competitions involved with that. Saddest Kitty, no! And Thicker. God, I love people's names. So, wow, that was rude. I held spacebar. So we have been doing some rescaling because I keep doing that. Mostly because I keep realizing that my objects are so large that they're making my map appear small. I don't want that. I want this to appear to be somewhat vast size. So we rescaled our mountains, rescaled our trees, and I'm in the midst of doing some work on the lighted forest because now the trees are really scattered all over the place. But yes, that's where. Water has. All right. So it's I don't really think I'm gonna spend too much time tediously fixing trees on stream right now. Because basically I'm just gonna be doing what I was doing over here. Taking trees, moving them to little clusters, making a lot of clusters, making the clusters into larger clusters, and just kind of making shapes. That's gonna take a long time. So I'm not gonna really do that right this second. But let's go check out our planes and see if we screwed that up in any big way. Honestly, it looks like we didn't. Up. Like, move the dead tree up, maybe. I mean, these clusters of plants look fine. Yeah, the planes look good. Actually, so does this. So that all looks rather good. Something I also did is I reset the layers. I reset the layers on the trees to be layer 0, and that has deeply affected some things because now all of these trees over here, back to those, I have to move all these up to layer 2 so that they can be seen again. Yeah. So, and I did that lovely. Oh no. I did that lovely resizing trees because, well, um it was easier to start from the same space, so to speak, square one. We have a lot of work to do involving that. Lots of minor work of reshaping, because I like to make my life difficult by doing that. But it is nice that you can see all the water features here for us now. And I think I want to keep that. I think I want to make sure that that's going to be visible because it adds scale. Something else that we're going to have to do is actually maybe that's what I'll do for the last 45 minutes here. Showcase how I did this. 45 minutes, I meant 15 minutes. I want to showcase how I did this because this was an interesting experiment to try and figure out how to do water, and I really liked how it came out a lot. So I think I'm going to show you guys how I did that, probably just over here. Before anything, I'm going to go ahead and do some restructuring. So I'm going to subtract. I'm going to set this shape to a circle, and I'm going to do a size 2. And I go in here and make sure that some of my shapes aren't too smooth. Should be some significant variation. Shorelines, especially on this scale. I want to get uneven. Even if the overall shape is kind of unaffected, we don't want it to be too even. We want it to be chunky. Lower that to size 1. Start realistically, what might be a small bay is actually only going to be about that big. This is more like a sound. Small one, don't get me wrong. I think that's good enough for now. I wanted to show you guys how I did. How I did what I did. I'm gonna change my layer to the background and choose color. And I think I'd gone with blue 5, the lightest blue I had. And I just kind of went around. I lowered my opacity a little bit. Kind of went around the edge here to lighten it out. Yeah. I'm gonna go around the edges here and lighten that up. You can see there's already some ripples here, and that's naturally included. Oh, I definitely use water 1. Rip. I'm gonna go back in with water 1. That other water didn't like the wrong color. Lightening up around the shores. I want it to be a little brighter. All right. And then I'm going to take darker color. Yep. Stick down here for darker color. I'm just gonna kind of hit the middle. The space with it. Area where I think the water would be quite deep. Gonna click. I want the water to. I want it to seem like it should be getting deeper. So, I'm going to kind of repeatedly click right along the edge of that brighter color for that. Darkest patches should be right in the middle. Thing I was thinking of was making it so that it gets even darker than that lake out into the as we get further away from land. Adding that effect to it. As you can see, I kind of lightened it up a little bit by lowering opacity, because that way the shifts in color aren't too dark. But I can go back in over this to darken it up a little bit more. I'm definitely going to be doing it. Okay. Now let's bring our color back, or our size back down. Click areas as deep. All right. So this this color right here, close to what the water is right now, water 2, is closer to what. So that color right there, it's a it's a texture. Not hugely fond of it. So what I was thinking of doing with this is something I'd done before. Is I'm gonna take this white color. Excuse me. I'm gonna shrink this down as much as possible. And I'm just going to kind of tap along the lines. Kind of click here and there. Add some lines. Kind of adding this implication of reflection. Sometimes you don't want to add it everywhere, just then next what I want to do, wave. Kind of tapping once or twice. Want reflections off the surface of the water. Not perfect, but like it. Reflective surface. I want this all over. I want it to cover all the color. I especially want it to overlap the dark and light areas because you want it to appear as though it's still. I think that looks good. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back. Watercolors. I'm going to go to the water blue 5. I'm going to up my size quite a bit. I'm going to lower my opacity quite a lot. Just make these streaks across the water. Kind of just blending, but I want there to be dark patches. I'll do the white ones. Because it's that implication of reflection still. Yeah, the white is better. Yeah, I think that's reasonably good. Probably a little too extreme. So what we can do is take some of our watercolor, take some of that same blue, just go back over it, feud it out a little bit, because it's such a low opacity. We can even go over some of our shore a little bit. Just mute the whole thing out ever so slightly to the color we. If you really find that one part is especially egregious, you can take it down size and bring back up your opacity. Color over it. And even if you mute these down a lot, you always have the opportunity to. They still appear there, and this will add the effect of like shadows on the waves, so it'll still do you a favor, still make it look good. But yeah, so that's more or less how I went about doing this. Is just kind of going back and forth between different watercolors and and adding layers to it until I got the desired effect. Yeah, that's how I started doing water, and I'm gonna keep doing it that way. I enjoyed it a lot, so we'll definitely do more of that. But we are approaching the end of our stream here today, so I want to thank you all for joining me. It's been a lot of fun. I want to thank Lycan Dragon for joining us today as well. It was interesting to talk about your story, and I hope that if you have any other questions, feel free to ask. You can always go on our Discord, Gehenna Game, talk about that. So for those who have just joined us recently, Gehenna Gaming is a consent-driven horror gaming company. Well, we do a lot of games, but we like to focus on horror. So if you like tabletop gaming in general, you should definitely come join us on our Discord. You should also follow us on social media. And also, if you like what we do, you should check us out on Patreon. If you really like our projects, we do a lot of stuff. We do podcasts, actual plays, we do storytime recordings. We also offer more detailed GM advice. So one-on-one sessions that can, that are as in-depth as you want them to be. You want people to review your things, that's one of our Patreon tiers. So if you liked the things we talked about today, go on in, go to join our Patreon for more of that. And lastly, see if maybe there's a nothing. So we're going to be running or working with the Bodhana group to be doing Save Against Fear, the convention that is going to be from October the 9th, I believe October the 11th, Friday to Sunday. Yes, October 9th to October 11th. So that's in just a few weeks. So definitely join Gehenna Gaming. Check that out. Check out the link there in the chat. It's a charity stream. It's for a good cause. So consider buying tickets to events there. We'll be running lots of games. I'll be running a couple games too. So hooray! But other than that, I think that's all we had to cover. So once again, thank you for joining us in Worlds and Crafts Midday Mapping stream devoted to opening the curtain of creation on Setting Build, where we're talking about metaplots, minutiae, mechanics, maps, and monsters and annual. My name is Bran Bean. I've been your host today, and I will be your host on Wednesday. Join us then for Act Setting Building, Thursdays for map making. Remember, creating is always better with friends, and have a lovely day and a lovely weekend.